Throughout the entirety of the Shinjuku Showdown, there's been amazing chapters left and right, but I think there's one chapter that's arguably the best in the entire arc, even the best in the entire series, and it's chapter 257. Although you can really make a case for a lot of chapters in this series being the best depending on what you enjoy as a reader when it comes to the series, when it comes to my perspective, I find chapter 257 to be a masterpiece, a treat, and one of the few chapters I've seen more than 90% of readers absolutely adore. In this video, I'll be talking about all the reasons I believe this chapter has a strong case to be the best in the series, and since I value the time of both you and I, let's just get into it. As chapter 256 reaches its end, Yuji lands his first Black Flash in over 120 chapters, and it's then stated that he's undergone an awakening, leading into chapter 257. This chapter being centered around a rematch that we've wanted for a very long time, a true and serious Yuji vs Sukuna battle. The previous one was a serious all-out fight with the stakes being higher than ever, but the problem was that it was quite obvious that it wasn't going to conclude with Sukuna's defeat or Yuji's death. And anyway, Maki came in and assisted him the chapter after, with it being shown that she took over the fight from there. With chapter 257 leading into Yuji being the only heavy hitter available against Sukuna at the moment, we were all aware that this was primarily going to be a 1v1. Throughout this chapter, we would see Yuji land Black Flash after Black Flash after Black Flash, being able to match Sukuna at his current state and even overwhelm him at times. After many years of following this series and readers knowing that this battle would come at some point, it was great to finally see it in action. Not only do we finally get to see Yuji dish out a huge beating on Sukuna, but we finally get information on the cleaving dismantle that Gojo said that Yuji would be attaining at some point very early on in the series. As Yuji has awakened with another Black Flash against Sukuna, coupled with all the experience he's gained as a sorcerer during the time skip, it's revealed that, in this chapter, he now has access to Sukuna's curse technique, but his own modern day variation of it, on top of the blood manipulation that he was confirmed to have in the previous chapter. After so much time of watching Yuji fight with no curse technique, the readers are rewarded with it being shown that he now has two of the best in the series. And despite having two of the best curse techniques in the series, this chapter displays Yuji retaining his original fighting style that everybody enjoys, while using these techniques to further enhance it. This gets rid of the concern of Yuji's fighting style changing before readers even get the chance to complain. Jujutsu Kaisen seems to heavily rely on delayed gratification when it comes to moments like these in the series, despite it being known for its fast pace. I believe this is a great thing. Again and again, Gege Akutami displays himself keeping a specific plot point or character hidden from the story or spotlight for a long time, so just as soon as readers get exhausted, he can drop the current target and move on to another. And when anything relating to Yuji finally gets its time to shine, it's always celebratory. This chapter here does it better than really any other because we get so many of Yuji's most anticipated plot points and a spotlight against Sukuna all in one chapter. It feels like a massive reward for the reader for sticking with the series for so long, all the while showing us that Gege at least has a roadmap for certain things and events in the story. Speaking about how Gege Akutami has an idea of how his story will go, in the flashback before Yuji and Sukuna begin their battle, Sukuna states to Urume, "You know this already, but Itadori Yuji was bred as a player in the Koli games, having sealed one of my fingers. That much was likely necessary to ensure his strength as a vessel." Pay very close attention to this statement here, because it goes over many people's heads. Yuji was bred as a player, having sealed one of my fingers. Yuji had always had one of Sukuna's fingers within him, even before the one he consumed in chapter 1. There are a couple of scenes that are recontextualized and back up this statement by Sukuna in 257. Let's begin at Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 158. This chapter would have Megumi questioning Yuji as to why he was a culling game player. Yuji suggests that it's due to him consuming Sukuna's finger, but Kenjaku stated that he had people consume cursed objects like Yuji Itadori did. But Megumi says that it's strange because you consumed the finger out of your own will. Kenjaku did not make you do it, and I witnessed you doing that, so that cannot explain it. Now we know why Yuji was a player. This is because Kenjaku had the finger sealed within him, likely as a baby or a child. But if this is the case, how is Yuji not aware of cursed energy, or saw curses despite eating Sukuna's finger and obtaining cursed energy? There's an answer for this too. As of chapter 136, Kenjaku would break the seals on all of the cursed objects that he placed within the sorcerers in order to begin the culling game, basically saying that the extra finger that had always been placed within Yuji was not active until Kenjaku broke the seal on it. Allow me to clarify this further, because people will get confused here. Yuji had not been able to see curses or cursed energy because the first finger had always been sealed up until chapter 136. When it comes to Sukuna, he was at 15 fingers in the Shibuya incident until Kenjaku broke the seal on the first finger. This making it active like every other finger that Yuji had consumed up until that point. At that very moment, Sukuna went from 15 fingers to 16 fingers. In my opinion, this debunks the entire thought process of Megumi bumping into Yuji and sensing Sukuna because of the finger that was sealed within him, because some people can argue that it's because Megumi's the true 1 in a million host. I don't think that was foreshadowing, and it was because of the residue like he initially assumed. If you can prove me wrong, do so in the comments. Anyway, Sukuna, when taking over Megumi's body in 212, would transfer all of his fingers into Megumi's body, including the one that Yuji was born with. So here, he's at 16 fingers. Now, you know how in chapter 222, Uruume would present 3 fingers to Sukuna in the first page and speak about how she could not find the last? 16 plus 3 equals 19, and the final finger was within Yuta Kotsu, making it 20. But of course, Sukuna would eat his own corpse and make up for the last finger that he couldn't find. So now, he's at 20 fingers of strength and full power. The first 2 pages of 257 tie up a lot of open threads in the series if you caught what Sukuna meant by Yuji being born with a finger sealed within him, which is insane. You know a chapter's good when it makes many chapters before it even better. We don't only find all of that out when it comes to Sukuna's fingers, but we also get the reveal of Sukuna being a conjoined twin. The Yuji being Sukuna's separated conjoined twin theory was a very popular theory within the community, and despite the separated twin not being Yuji, but his father Jin, I'm still giving credit to the people who created that theory, because there's no possible way to predict that. We need to be fair here. This plot point being revealed reinforces the mystery behind Yuji, giving us even more to look forward to, while finally giving us some answers on Sukuna and Yuji's relations and why they look pretty similar. It still confuses me when it comes to Wasuke, Yuji's grandfather, because he looks most like Sukuna out of any other character in the series, but does not hold a direct relation to him, or so it seems currently. The fact that Gege Akutami can send so many waves throughout the story of Jujutsu Kaisen with 1 page displays to me that he has written this story very meticulously, and that he's aware of what he's doing. Jujutsu Kaisen is truly a story only for the patient. Moving on from the facts, let's get into a bit of discussion and analysis when it comes to this chapter. Something I've noticed is that we see a lot of Sukuna's thought process, and it's almost as if Gege wrote this chapter from the perspective of Sukuna rather than Yuji. Yuji does not speak a single word. We don't even see his thoughts. He's simply locked in and relentlessly pummels Sukuna with the help of Ino, whereas Sukuna is the one wondering what's going on with Yuji. It's very ironic, as Sukuna is the one who's always seen as the unstoppable force of nature in the story, crushing every single sorcerer he's fought with ease, completely unfazed, and every single time. But this time around, that role is given to Yuji, the only character that can directly attack Sukuna's soul, and judging from the chapter, it seems like he can do that with more than just punches. I believe Gege intentionally did this, as the very last thing said before the fight begins is that Yuji holds the same potential as Sukuna, and Sukuna's composure is completely broken for the very first time in the series as he screams at Yuji with all of the frustration in the world. You can see that the tables have turned for once, and it's genuinely satisfying to see. Next up is the reveal of Jin. Yuji's father being the soul of the conjoined twin of Sukuna also puts things into perspective. When Sukuna sees Yuji, he could potentially see the original sin of his past, a physical representation of the divine retribution that Sukuna must face for his life of hedonism, and one that will reach him no matter how hard he tries to stop it. This could play into why Sukuna is so unnerved by Yuji's presence, and came to the conclusion that no matter how hard he tries to put down Yuji, it's simply not possible. Another detail of this chapter I'd like to discuss is how beautiful the fight is overall, complementing every previous detail mentioned. The battle beginning full throttle with a quick exchange of hands and black flashes back to back, then a swap to Yuji's new curse technique and how he uses it with so much finesse despite just obtaining it, and then even more black flashes. On top of this, Yuji and Sukuna change settings multiple times in this one chapter as they relentlessly go back and forth on one another with everything they currently have, eating each other's attacks like they're nothing. 257 provides the reader with beautiful, high-speed brutality after a string of chapters displaying Sukuna dominating the entire cast. The chapter could not have been placed any better, as it serves as a launch pad for Yuji taking over the fight from there on, as there's nobody else who can save Megumi by separating him from Sukuna's body. For those worried about Yuta, I believe he'll be dealt with very quick. All in all, it was truly a breath of fresh air to get a Yuji-centric chapter. I firmly believe that this series is always at its best when he's in the forefront, and Gege is certainly aware of this as he loves to reserve Yuji for as long as he possibly can before letting him cut loose. This chapter also incorporates many themes of the story while flipping it on its entire head, encouraging readers to reread from the very beginning to see it from a different perspective. It's phenomenal, and I can't sing its praises enough, so I'll cut myself off here. With that said, share your thoughts on the chapter down below, or if you have any personal favorites that you'd consider to be better, let me hear them. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.